Help others, like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications.
Shalom, my name is Joseph Shulam. I'm recording from my living room in a suburb of Jerusalem called Mevaseret Zion. And another mind candy. This one is dealing with one of the most complex texts in the whole Bible. And I'm even surprised that a lot of Sunday schools teach that text to the kids. It's part of the curriculum of teaching them the Word of God. It's a very interesting text. I think it's very important, but I also think that it is very difficult to understand from every point of view. The first thing that we must notice is verse 1 of chapter 22. Now it came to pass after these things that God tested Abraham and said to him, Abraham. The problem starts here. After which things? It says, after these things that God tested Abraham. Which things did God test Abraham with? I mean, we could go back to chapter 12 of Genesis and see the different tests, the different difficulty with Lot and with Lot's shepherds, and then with Hagar and Ishmael, and then, oh man, there is several tests that God put Abraham. The circumcision, the three angels, among them was Jehovah, God himself. And Abraham argued with him about Sodom. And how could you destroy Sodom? Because there's some righteous people in Sodom. Can you destroy the righteous with the evil? All these are tests. But it doesn't tell us which. It doesn't tell us which tests. So my question is this. We got to dig a little bit, folks. We got to dig a little bit, because this is now the last test, the 10th test that God is testing Abraham. 10th test. After these things that God tested Abraham and said to him, Abraham. And Abraham answers with the classical Hebrew answer that every true man of God answers. Hineni, here I am. Here I am in English doesn't mean the same thing as Hineni. Hineni means here I am, ready to hear you, ready to do what you ask me, ready to understand you, ready to have a relationship with you. Here I am, Hineni. If you follow this word, there is so many important lessons in the Bible, from the Hebrew Bible, with this word Hineni. Everybody, Moses and everybody, almost every hero in the Bible said to God, Hineni, I am here. I am ready to hear you. I am ready to do what you want me to. I am ready to obey you. So Abraham says with the answer with the word Hineni, and then God says, take now your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as burnt offering on one of the mountains of which I shall tell you, which I will show you. Now Mount Moriah is where Solomon built the temple, where David bought the threshing floor of Araunah, the Jebusite, and wanted to build a temple, and God allowed his son Solomon to build a temple on Mount Moriah. Notice this outrageous demand from God of Abraham. Take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains of which I shall tell you. He already told him which mountain, Moriah. So what is on one of these mountains which I should tell you? Well, find out. So Abraham rose early in the morning, saddled his donkey. That also is a very important phrase in the whole Bible. Saddled his donkey and took two of his young men with him and Isaac his son, and he split the wood for the burnt offering. In other words, he prepared the wood for the burnt offering and rose and went to the place which God had told him. Then on the third day, Abraham lifted his eyes and saw a place afar off. And Abraham said to his young men, "Stay here with the donkey, and the lad and I will go yonder and worship. And we will come back to you." We, plural, not I will come back. We will come back, plural. The rabbi said Abraham was a prophet, and he prophesied that even if he sacrifices his son Isaac, God is going to resurrect him, and he will come back with him from this endeavor, from this test. So Abraham took the wood and burnt offering and laid it on Isaac's, his son. Isaac is carrying the wood on which he will be tied down and offered. It's interesting commentary, very, very old commentary of the rabbis on this text. What do they say? They say this. I'm reading the text again. And he took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it on Isaac, his son. And he took a fire in his hand and the knife, and the two of them went up together. So the rabbis understand this text very interestingly and connect this event with the crucifixion of Yeshua, because they say he put the wood on Isaac like a man who carries his own cross. Isaac has to carry the wood that is going to be tied on and burned upon, like a man carries his own cross. That's the rabbinical commentary. Orthodox Jewish medieval rabbinical commentary. And Isaac, a good boy, obedient to his father, around the age of 20, if you calculate the stories in the book of Genesis, he's not a young kid. And Abraham is there with his son walking up the mountain, and Isaac asks Abraham, "My father." And Isaac answers Isaac exactly like he answered God. "Hineni, here I am, my son. Here I am, Hineni, I am ready. I'm hearing. I want to do what you ask me to do." And he said, "Look at the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering?" Another messianic hint is here. Where is the lamb for the burnt offering? Isaac has no clue that he's the lamb. He's the one. There's nobody else there to be offered. And Abraham said, "My son, God will provide for himself the lamb for a burnt offering." That's why in Judaism and in Islam, Abraham is one of the big prophets. In Christianity, and I would say in certain circles in Judaism, they don't stress that aspect of Abraham's life, of Abraham's character, that he was a prophet. It says, God will provide for himself the lamb for the burnt offering. Now, I'm going to stop here in verse 8, and I'm going to skip to deal with the moral issues that this event raises. We are here reading a command by God to Abraham, his faithful servant, to do something that is absolutely forbidden in the Torah. Human sacrifices are not allowed in the Torah. Not one time, several times. Several times human sacrifices are not allowed in the Torah. And this is not a small thing. It's not something to sneeze about. It's a serious crime. What makes it such a serious crime is the following. It's something that the pagans do. Hebrews don't do. Hebrews don't do things like that. It's something that the pagans do. I shudder to think about this. If I was there and I heard a voice that said to me, "Go do this," which is forbidden by the Torah, forbidden by the law. It's a pagan act. It's something that the Hebrews didn't do. And suddenly, Abraham listens. I'm reading from Leviticus chapter 18, verse 21. "You shall not give any of your children to offer them to Molech, and so profane the name of your God. I am the Lord." I am, in Hebrew, I am Jehovah. This verse is explicit, forbidding the practice of child sacrifice to a pagan deity or to any deity, which is a form of human sacrifice practiced by some of the neighbors in the land of Israel and around the land of Israel, especially in the Transjordan. There's a very famous cult of child sacrifice. Then we read again in Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 31. "You shall not worship the Lord your God in that way. For every abominable thing that the Lord hates, they have done for their gods. For they even burn their sons and their daughters in the fire to their gods." Look, this verse is so clear. Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 31. You shall not do it. Deuteronomy 18:10. There shall not be found among you anyone who burns his son or his daughter as an offering. Anyone who practices divination, tells fortunes, interprets omens, or is a sorcerer. The punishment for such a person is very harsh. So, my dear brothers and sisters, Abraham, what he doesn't know, that God has never asked him to offer a human being. What is it? He forgot which God he is worshiping. So that makes that story very dramatic and very difficult. Extremely difficult. It's not so simple. And it has a lot of implications. Abraham waited for Sarah to give birth for a lot of years. After Ishmael was already born, after Sarah gave Hagar, the Egyptian slave, to Abraham as a concubine, and she gave him Ishmael, who until today is a thorn of our flesh, of the flesh of all of Israel. The Hamas, the Hezbollah, all of these are sons of Ishmael. All the Arabs come from Ishmael. I wish Sarah and Abraham had more patience and avoided bringing Ishmael into life. But not, again, so one of the first difficulties here is that God demands from Abraham something that is outrageous, something that is pagan, something that is forbidden, something that he's never asked him to do, and Abraham keeps silent. And he ties Isaac on the altar and the wood, and he has the fire in his hand, and he has the knife in his hand, and he's ready to offer Isaac to God as a sacrifice. And God, of course, intervenes. He cannot let that happen. So he intervenes. An angel comes and stops Abraham from doing that, and provides a ram that cannot run away because he's caught in the thicket of the tree, and his horns are caught there, and he can't get out and run away. And Abraham catches him, releases Isaac, and offers the ram, of the lamb, of the ram. But the big outcome of this is very interesting. This is the last time that God and Abraham have a conversation. 7 chapters, from chapter 22, 7 chapters until Abraham dies. Not a peep from God to Abraham or from Abraham to God. Alienation. And this is the mind candy. Alienation, my dear brothers and sisters. God and Abraham broke diplomatic relationship. God brought his ambassador back to heaven and left Abraham to deal with his own problems and issues. Why? And the question is why? The answer is interesting and complicated. Because when God came in chapter 17 to Abraham, chapter 18 of Genesis to Abraham, the 3 angels, one of them was Jehovah, and tells him about his desire to destroy Sodom. Abraham argues with him, how could you destroy Sodom? There are some righteous people there. You cannot kill the righteous together with the evil. You're not that kind of a God. He argues with God and wins. And wins. He delivers Lot and his family and his servants and his wife out of Sodom before Sodom turns over. In an earthquake, in a volcano, I don't know what it was, an atomic bomb, I have no idea what it was, but it was utterly destroyed and is still uninhabited until this very day. So why did God, after this test, the last test of Abraham, test of faith, and Abraham passed the test, he listened to God, but why is God then ignoring Abraham until his death? I'll tell you what I think. There's different theories. The rabbis have all kinds of theories. But I have a different theory from the traditional view. Because Abraham was the lawyer, interceded, argued with God about Sodom and the righteous of Sodom. And here it is, his own son. And he's too obedient, too compliant, not enough a mensch, as they say in Yiddish. I think that God understood here something about Abraham, and Abraham understood something about God, that it behooves us to know these things. God doesn't want his servants, his children, to be puppets. He gave us mind, intelligence. And to be obedient doesn't mean to be in la la land. I was going to use the word stupid, but I'm not going to. To be obedient doesn't mean you put your brains in neutral and coast downhill. You can argue with God. Moses argued with God more than once. And he won the argument. More than once. He argued with God in chapter 34 of Exodus. He argued with God in the book of Numbers about the daughters of Tzlofchad. That he didn't have a son and women were not allowed to inherit. Moses argues with God and convinces God, yes, women can inherit. And he wins. And I think this is the thing, the major thing why the communication between God and Abraham ceased, totally ceased until Abraham's death. We know that he was in heaven because we know that he came together with Elijah to Mount of Transfiguration, maybe Mount Tabor in the middle of the Jezreel Valley, a mountain set apart, it says. And Moses, for the first time, entered maybe not the first time, but at least this time, he entered the promised land and met Yeshua on the mountain and encouraged Yeshua. He and Elijah encouraged Yeshua because both of them died and came back. And so they could say, don't worry, Yeshua. Your death, your suffering is not in vain, and you will come back. You will return, be king of the Jews. So this is the mind candy, folks. The mind candy is that Abraham was obedient, but I think that God expected from Abraham and from us to be obedient, yes, but not to be stupid, to be inquisitive, to ask, to test, to find out whose voice are you hearing. Abraham understood that it was God, and he was obedient. And that became, in rabbinical literature, kind of the motivating factor for God to sacrifice his own son, but also to resurrect him from the dead after 3 days, and to prepare him for a return to Jerusalem. And he is coming back. He's coming back. There are so many signs of fulfillment of prophecies that we all witness that point to the fact that we are entering into a period of great distress, of great suffering, in preparation for the return of the Son of Man to Jerusalem, to the place he ascended from the Mount of Olives. So God bless you all. If you have questions, don't be shy. Write. I promise to answer. God bless you. Shalom.
Help others, like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications.